election integrity, because if you add more laws to the books, you still have people who will not follow the law. And if you don't enforce the law, if you don't bring in Republicans to say, I am going to be a poll worker, if you need 5 Republicans in the building, make sure 5 workers are. Contact the Michigan Republican Party, ask them for 5 people or 25 people or 200 people to work it. And then when the challengers come in, you protect them. You don't put them out. You don't call the police on them. You're supposed to protect them according to the law. If you follow the law in the urban Democratic controlled areas, then we would not be here today. I certainly wouldn't be here. But in 25 years that I've been monitoring elections, working with the Secretary of State, the last 8 doing election integrity, it's been a hot mess in the same Democrat controlled areas. We don't need any more laws. We need to enforce the laws, and we need to open up the doggone ballot boxes.
But we are agreed that we need to change the laws on recounting precincts. We do agree that we need to change the law on recounting precincts, right?
Pardon me?
We should change the law on recounting precincts. That was the subject of my question.
We're not changing the laws for recounting.
Screed, but the question was about that specific law, allowing the recounting of imbalanced precincts.
No, we're not.
Let's change that law.
We're not trying to talk about recounting for imbalanced precinct. The balancing of the precinct can come at the counting board level. You think that the ballots come out and then all of a sudden it's given in and locked up in a box. It is not. Once it leaves the precinct, it goes to a counting board. They have the full authority to open up that ballot box because it's not balancing. If the seal is broken, if this is broken, they can reseal it at the counting board. There is a law with the counting board, and it's lazy in the inner cities of color, of people who look like me are not doing their job. And it needs to be done so that we can count 100% of the precincts instead of 29%. That's what needs to be done, is to make sure people are doing their job. You won't get that in an audit. What you will get in the current fake audits that we've been having and these fluff audits that we've had right now, you will get, well, these can't be recounted, so okay, so we can't do that. Here's what we can. You will get an audit of the 29% in Detroit that can be recounted. That's all you're going to get. Because we need to see the 71% of the fraud that has been locked up and will be destroyed after so many years. That's what we need to see.
Thank you. Thank you,
I'll
Senator.
take any other questions.
Thank you, Senator Irwin. Senator Lucido.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dr. Tarver. I got to tell you, I can't agree with you more. My whole problem is sitting in this chair today and leaving the Senate to go prosecute those crimes. Why was it when the Secretary of State, which you were there how many years?
I've been with the Secretary of State 29 years.
Almost 30 years. And we've been in this room here over 6.5 hours. And the irony is, it's about the same issue. Mm-hmm. If the people are doing their jobs and the integrity of the vote is being respected, mm-hmm, we wouldn't be in here today.
That's right.
2 is 71% can't be counted because
of fraud or apathy or incompetence or clerical error or all of the above.
So we did some testimony, and the chairman was gracious enough to bring in 3 separate identifiable clerks from 3 separate identifiable counties. We asked these questions. How many of the ballots weren't signed that you didn't count? How many didn't look like signatures? I mean, we went into the deep dive because there's so many people that are so disenchanted. I don't want them to give up on the vote. I want them to remember that people sacrificed their lives for these amendments.
People who look like me died to get the right to vote. And I'm telling you, it is sacred.
And this discriminatory practices with women not getting the same right that men years ago. If it's a felony, it's a felony. Mm-hmm. If it's got to be prosecuted, it should be. Otherwise, the whole fabric of this entire nation falls apart. Discrepancies in the precincts, I get it, to my colleague up here. if you're going to have discrepancies, as if it's an easy fix. But I'm not hearing things from all over the state. I'm hearing them in segregated areas, and I think you are targeting these areas by saying people are either inept to do their job or they don't care about doing the job.
They have either been instructed not to care or have been allowed to, over the decades, not to be held accountable for the lack of accountability in the sacred vote. When you have gone so many years, people do not want to be called racist.
Right.
And if you're going into urban areas, in particular Detroit, you're hearing, why are you trying to disenfranchise the black vote?
Yeah.
You are racist, racist, racist.
I think this, and I
But that has been the mantra to allow for the 71% of no accountability when we have safeguards in place to ensure the balancing of the precinct and the seal that is not broken.
Dr. Tarver, those ballots are not of color. They
I
are,
agree.
They are one color.
That's right.
And they go in and they have parties on them. And the disrespect that I've heard throughout the process in Wayne County, in Detroit, only leads me to believe that even an audit process, and I got to ask this question, if 71% can't be counted,
Cannot.
the audit process to spend the kind of millions of dollars that it would take, and I really don't even know what CPA firm or what firm would do an audit. Have you, in your almost 30 years with the Secretary of State, could you identify a firm that specializes in election audits?
We'd have to bring in the federal government. The forensic audit that is needed
Yep.
is not going to be what has been done in order to open up those ballot boxes, which we need to.
So
That's where we need to open up the ballot boxes.
if this has never been done, if this has never been done in the history of this country, I'm asking this question. Does the legislature cumulatively or collaboratively work on a standard that would be the audit process? Because the next thing I see is that there's going to be debate over the audit process.
I don't see the legislative body, this body, passing any law to change anything, because must balance is not going to force Detroit to balance. Must balance is not going to force Inez Brown, the city clerk of Flint, to balance. Must balance. She has never been able to balance since she's been an election clerk there. So she's never balanced. Pontiac won't balance. There's a few other places, mostly urban areas, that will not balance. And they don't have to be as large as Detroit. They just won't balance. And if we don't have a mechanism in place, because once you pass a law that says we're going to do this, it is not going to be heeded, because then if you try to enforce it in the urban areas, you'll be considered a racist. You'll be considered disenfranchising the voters. You're just trying to check on us. Oh, black folks from Detroit need to have our whatever 71%. If you can't count it, you can't count it. And this Secretary of State will call it small clerical errors. And that is the mantra and talking points that should not be done. This is not a small clerical error. If there is fraud in those 71%, they need to be opened. Open the boxes. And that's going to be the new mantra, hashtag open the boxes.
Mr. Chair, I just have we're going to get down and drill down on this, but the reality is I don't think my colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle feel any differently. I think, to Senator Irwin's point, all of us want the integrity, the respect, and trust. Otherwise, we sitting here as lawmakers make no sense if the vote doesn't count and it doesn't accurately reflect what's going on. But
That was certainly the sentiment expressed at our joint committee's first meetings by all members.
and at the end of the day, though, if we don't have the capability of resurrecting this wrong to accurately reflect what the vote is, how did it get so disenfranchised that we all are sitting here today hearing ballots brought in at 4 a.m? I must have heard it 20 times, maybe more. ballots that were going through and counted 8 times, ballots that weren't signed going through, or the signature appeared, or the date, 1,900.
Oh, yeah. The constitutional issue and the constitutional issue that the president is arguing, which is a valid one, is that the equal protection under the law, it's required under the Constitution. And this is the president's argument. Me in Lansing, Michigan, if I sent in my absentee ballot, I didn't sign it, or I voted straight Republican and straight Democrat, my partisan section should be spoiled because they should not be curing it. And that is being cured. If I did not do what I needed to do, my ballot won't count. But if the same ballot was sent in Detroit, it is cured, which is fake, trying to interpret the results, and it is accepted if I don't sign it in Detroit. And that's where in Lansing, my ballot won't count. In Detroit, it will, and I should be able to have equal protection under the law. That is the constitutional amendment. That's the constitutional argument that our president is making. That is what you should be looking at. Are we treated fairly, regardless of where we live in Michigan? Will my vote count, regardless?
You used the word cure.
Cure.
And in the law,
Yes.
if you look at the legal definition of cure, what do you mean by the definition of cure?
So the curing of the ballots is if you're not able to, you've got an absentee ballot and it is kicked out. Because if you're sitting there, your ballot is kicked out if there's an overvote or if there's an undervote. You can, if there's an overvote, let's say it says vote for not more than 2 and you vote for 3. It's an overvote. It'll kick it back out if you're at the precinct.
And you have a chance to
And
cure
you have
your
a
ballot.
chance to cure your own ballot.
To redress the wrong on the
Correct.
ballot.
But if it's an absentee ballot,
Yes,
it is not supposed to be cured.
it is not supposed
No.
to be. It's supposed
Your
to be,
partisan
it's a spoiled
section,
ballot.
It's, no, that section is spoiled. It's not countable. But the nonpartisan section that you did correctly is supposed to be counted.
So let's go by example. I vote straight ticket, Democratic.
And Republican.
Or I vote straight ticket, but when I get to the judges, choose not but one, because they're nonpartisan,
Right.
that part.
Right.
I choose 2. What happens to the ballot?
So your ballot counts, but if it's an absentee, that particular judge is not, it's not counted.
Nobody gets a vote.
Correct.
Okay. At the end of the day, I sat here as a legislator for over 6 years now. I sit in this chair and I wonder why the Secretary of State, if you have to request a ballot in a primary for Democrat or Republican, why they just can't make 2 ballots, all Republican, all Democrat, and send them out. So it can't get spoiled. You can't make a mistake. You can't go across the center line.
That is what occurs during the primary. So each group, Republicans and Democrats,
get it.
decide who's going to be on their ballot.
But if you don't want the ballot to be spoiled and not counted, and you want your vote to count.
You
and
can split your ticket in the general.
But I'm
Correct.
saying in the primary, do you see why, if I'm asking for a Democratic or Republican?
No, I would agree with you. I would
Because
agree
now
with
it's an
you.
impossibility to spoil that ballot.
That's only in the primary.
Primary, right. But that brings the next level of seekers to move to the general. And if the ballot was spoiled enough times, that seeker may not get the opportunity to serve.
I agree.
Okay, one more thing, and then I'm going to call it, because
I
I
hope
know
so.
it's been. No, but you know what? I'm tired of sitting here and trying to defend
I'm just giving you a hard time, Mr. Vice Chair.
Just go ahead. Give him all the time he wants here.
71% not being able to be counted, which means
71% not being able to be
do
recounted.
we ever get the opportunity to find out what the
You
hell
will,
happened?
you will never know what is actually in that box, in the ballot box. You're not able to determine if those who are, those ballots are even duplicated in.
Do you
If you see
believe-
people sending in 3 or 4
I got it.
times,
I
you don't
understand.
know.
So that statement of 71% has been stated out in the public. You are aware, being with the Secretary of State's office, 29 years, that's a long time. At the end of the day, does this give rise for the Attorney General to make an investigation and inquiry why 71% of that vote went that way?
Yes, I would believe that, again, if there is impropriety, that is where the Attorney General can investigate. I've prepared referrals to Bill Schuette for election crimes. We've had people in Michigan prosecuted for voting in Michigan and at their summer home in Florida. We've had people who were not here legally, non-citizens, vote in Michigan. We've had tons of people who voted twice, voted in person and absentee, and they're doing it in large clusters in these urban areas. It is a problem in the Democrat-controlled areas. It's not the problem with the laws on the books. It's a problem in the Democrat-controlled areas, and the laws need to be enforced. And if they cannot be enforced, they need to at least bring in the federal government to do an oversight and administer elections in these urban areas, which have been routinely unable to be balancing at the end of the day. We have too many touch points where those things can be balanced, but we are not. We have an apathy or just a corrupt, either apathy or a corrupt system, and for some reason we have no appetite with this governor, Secretary of State, or the Attorney General to do anything about it at this point. This is too egregious and too much fraud that it should have been already investigated.
Well, we have seen prosecutions in election fraud, such as Southfield. There is selective prosecution in certain areas. At the end of the day, why wouldn't this state want the ability to make the inquiry? Is it because the case isn't delivered perfectly? I mean, these are credible people that are testifying here, including yourself.
It is COVID, before COVID, and even with COVID, COVID does not change the law. The law was not changed to accommodate COVID. The people who are the challengers are required and need to be protected in order to see the process. They can challenge the voter, they can challenge the precinct inspector, and they can challenge the entire process. That's what the law says, 168.733. That's what the law says. But we also have laws on the books that allow for people, the public, to view. And we also have laws on the books, but if they're not going to be enforced because it's an urban area, we have laws that says that people who should need assistance should be able to have assistance in voting. And some of these precincts did not have handicap and disability procedures there. Voting by mail disenfranchises a lot of people who cannot read and write, who need assistance, who need some assistance in the voting process with the machines that will read the ballot to them. And so this is the problem where we're not allowing we've used as an excuse COVID, but we are not allowing what needs to be done to be done. Just like the children who are not in school with disabilities are not getting the special care that they need, neither did the voters here in Michigan. They did not get the special assistance that is required by law. These special assistance, even those people who are blind, people who need Braille, people who need special audio equipment, we have those at every precinct, or it should be at every precinct, so that the people of Michigan will have everything they need to vote, and that is not being done in the urban areas. And people don't want to touch Detroit, but it is not a sacred cow anymore. It is looking more like a cow, but not a sacred cow anymore.
I want to say thank you to the chairman. I've gone way over my time.
So have I. I'm sorry.
And you know what, though? These questions need to be answered because all of us are here because of this.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you.
I do want to say, I wish that we had the opportunity to bring you in on a time. I mean, the agenda today was really supposed to focus on TCF, but out of respect to you and your experience, have allowed us to go off. But we may need you to come back when we
Call
get
me anytime. You
more
know where I'm
into that specific subject matter. So
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Irwin?
Yeah, I'd just like to make.
Sorry, did I miss your?
No. I'd just like to make a request that before our next hearing, I would just like to make a request that before our next hearing.
Members, Vice Chair Irwin would like to speak to us.
I'd just like to make a request that before our next hearing, we get some basic information about the facts that we could get in front of all the committee members. Because I think it was at our first hearing, maybe our second hearing, where one of the good representatives also mentioned this figure that 72% of the precincts can't be recounted. And, I received communication from the Secretary of State saying that's not accurate. It's actually 28%. And that's a pretty huge discrepancy. I brought it up at the time, but we've heard this over and over and over again. We're hearing the same, quips, the greatest hits right here, but that one we keep hearing over and over again, and it's just not true. Right, and so I think that unbalanced precincts and making sure that they're recountable is an important thing, and I think that we should take a look at this. But I just want to point out that at least the information that I've got, and maybe that's wrong, is that it's actually the opposite, and I want to make sure we're dealing in accurate information.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you for bringing that up, and I pledge to you that by our next meeting, I'll have some answers or persons who can give us that answers for the meeting. So thank you for bringing that up.
Senator?
Yes.
It's
Senator Tice.
28% of the in-person were recountable, or were not recountable, and 71% of the absentee were not recountable, is my understanding.
I will strive to
And that
have.
distinction is super important, because when you say that 71 or 72% of them are not recountable, that obscures some key facts. And it also obscures the fact that there are fewer absentee count boards, a smaller denominator, which is affecting that percentage as well. But yeah, I just want the facts.
I will work to get us those facts for our next hearing. Thank you. We have a few cards left. We are nearing the end. Are you Ms. Fine?
I am Ms. Fine, and
Thank you.
I'm here to nominate Linda Lee Tarver as next Secretary of State. And
So hold on, please. Hold on. Let's get this done. Thank you. I know it's getting late. Thank you. I have Ms. Fine, and then on deck, Mr. Haynes, followed by Patty Kamagata, and then Eddie Kabasinski. So if you're on deck, please be ready. Go ahead, Ms. Fine, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. I'm from Ingham County. I'm here today not to talk about COVO, but I want to give you something that's along the lines of what Dr. Tarver talked about, and that's following the process.
Were you at Cobo?
I was not.
Can I ask you to delay this to another time or to submit in writing? Because I'm supposed.
It'll take 1 second.
I know, but I've already disqualified other people who weren't at
Well, then I would
Cobo.
be disenfranchised, wouldn't I?
No, I give you time to report in another time or in another way.
It's just one thing. Yeah, I will. I'll give it to you. But it's just one thing, and that is Michigan Law 168.765, and that has to do with the privacy envelopes. I spoke to Ingham County, Meridian Township, and Clerk Barb Bybram, and was told that we didn't need privacy envelopes. We were told by the Michigan Election Commission that we didn't need them because there were municipalities who didn't have the money to buy them or print them. It's bunk, folks. You need to look at every aspect of what isn't being enforced. I sat in Meridian Township and saw people's ballots. They said, can I put this in? I don't have the brown envelope. Oh yeah, we'll take that. Subsequent to my affidavit of facts, I also spoke with Lansing City Clerk Chris Swope. I saw him at a function, and he said, oh yeah, we accept those all the time. Okay. So I'm just asking that you look at that.
Thank you.
Check out the COVID, and I'll give you this, but thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
Perfect. Michael Haynes. I hope I'm reading your name correctly. I thought at one point it was Hayes, or...
No, it's not. I will stand corrected. My name is Michael Hayes, Hayes.
Okay, thank you.
If you're from the east side of the state, just like the street, right, Pete?
You got it. Hayes Road.
After Michael, it's Patty Kamagata, and then Eddie Kabasinski. You have 3 minutes, sir, please.
Okay. I don't know how much I could add that I haven't heard already that you guys have probably grown stale of, because I think you heard the same thing from a lot of people. I don't have much to offer, and the reason why I say that, I wasn't able to get into the ballot room for very long before I was actually forcibly removed. That's the only thing I have to just add to what's already been added at TCF on the morning of the 4th, okay? But I was there until 8:30, almost 9 o'clock p.m. on the 4th. but I will tell you a few things if you want to hear it and more as a judgment and add maybe to some of your thoughts, I will add. But as far as seeing fraud itself, I didn't see fraud. But I don't think I need any more examples that a dog wags its tail than what I witnessed in that day. A dog wags its tail. That means he's happy. Something happened there. You don't go into the amount of disclosure that what I witnessed in that whole day of my time voluntarily to know a dog wags its tail. So if that isn't a part of your discussion, that's fine. You have enough facts, there's been enough people. I was with the people in there. I seen the films that they recorded, 3:20 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, just like you have. So I won't bore you with those facts. But I'll tell you what, I'm a lifelong resident of Michigan. I got 50-some years of experience here. I was born and raised in the city of Detroit. I seen its day come and go. Right now, the pride level of the city of Detroit and Wayne County was at its highest that I've seen in a very long time. Some of you up there are old enough to know what I'm talking about. Some of them you're not. I guess I'll just have to ask you to take my word for it. Okay? I think we all heard the saying, taking one step forward and 2 steps back. That's almost acceptable. It is. But what I witnessed in the day of November 4th, 2020 in Wayne County, pretty much Detroit did not take 2 steps back. It took 17 steps back. It was disgusting, sickening, nauseating, what I witnessed. Outside factors who had come in, and these are people that didn't take any part in trying to bring the city back to where it was, the greatest city in the world at one time. Nothing. All they did is they came in and tried to diminish it again.
30 seconds, sir.
I will add, the leadership of this state did again, the only thing, the overwhelmingly discussing TCF was one comment. A divisional comment. It was racist. There was nothing racist there. There was only one race that I witnessed at TCF. That was a human race. That's all I need to add. I mean, I don't know if that is 1 minute or not.
Thank you.
So I don't know how much I can add to you. But guys, if you need more examples that a spade is a spade is a spade, I guess I might as well just start changing my zip code.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Any questions for Mr. Hayes? Thank you, sir. Thanks for your patience all day.
Thank you.
Patty Kamagata? Yes. Oh, it says you weren't at TCF. Oh, I'm sorry. So you can only take my card, maybe then just get rid of it. Okay. Thank you, Patty. Eddie Kabasinski. After him, Gordon Pennington, and then Angelique Johnson. Mr. Kabasinski?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning. Or afternoon. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Eddie Kabasinski. I am the only conservative on the Warren City Council. I represent District 5, which is the South Central Warren area. I worked as a poll challenger and was trained by Caitlin Vire and Macomb Trump Victory to work the primary and also on the day of the election. I worked at the Warren Schools Administration building, and I seen a lot of fraud, a lot of inconsistencies take place at that particular precinct. I was working at that precinct, which was sections 53 and 55, and I seen multiple inconsistencies. I reported these to the Macomb County Republican Party as well as Macomb Trump Victory. And, you know, I had the lawyers contacted, and nothing took place as far as remedying the situation. Then the very next day, after we had gotten done with the reception party at Mr. B's in Macomb County that evening, Mark Fortin, our chairman of the Macomb County Republican Party, a little bit shortly after 1 a.m. in the morning on 4 November, read the results, and we were waiting for the results to come in on congressional candidate Charles Langworthy, and for it to go over 50%. Then Mark Fortin got the results, and every candidate in Macomb County, with the exception of Macomb County Commissioner seat number 3, which is Nicole Kleinfelter, nobody ran against her. The individual that was running against her dropped out because he didn't have any money. But every Republican won. And then shortly after 3 o'clock in the morning, all the votes changed. There was this ballot done.
1 minute left.
So after I had gotten contacted by the Macomb County Republican Party, mass text message